bring the session of the May 6th meeting of the Johnston County Board of Commissioners to order and welcome all those who are here this morning with us. We have a boardroom full, and I think some still out in the hall. So welcome to you. Also welcome to those who are watching on our live stream and will be watching in the future. Welcome to you as well. Wanted to open up again with a reminder of the 6 board priorities that we have established this year, and actually it's through the second year of those priorities, but they are educational funding, infrastructure, financial stewardship, land use, public safety, and our county employees. And did want to note that this will be the last meeting with the vacant position to my right with Commissioner Tony Praswell. We want to make an appointment this morning on that, but this is the last, and thus the pink tie for me one more time in Tony's honor. With that, we will move on to the invocation, and I've asked Commissioner Stevens to lead us in the invocation, and we have the pledge, which will be led by American Legion Post 270 from Smithfield. So if you choose to do so, please rise for the invocation, followed by the pledge.
Dear Lord, as we come today on a new Monday, a new month, we ask for new mercies. Please be with us to seek your wisdom and grace to guide our discussions and decisions. Grant us the insight to serve our community with integrity and compassion. Amen.
Amen.
Hand salute. Pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ready. 2.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Please be seated. The first item on the agenda is Memorial Day proclamation. I believe Robert Boyette, do you have any words on that before Commissioner Smith reads the proclamation?
Yes, sir. Just a couple, if you don't mind. I'd like to thank the board for proclaiming May 27th as Memorial Day in Johnston County. And on behalf of the citizens and veterans of Johnston County, we'd like to invite everyone to come out on May 27th at 11 o'clock here in the Johnston County Courthouse to attend our Memorial Day service. As part of the remembrance event, we will highlight many of our brave service members, of whom many of our buildings and statues and monuments are named after in the county. So that's on May 27th at 11 o'clock here in the courthouse. And thank you for considering the proclamation today.
All right.
Thank you.
And thank you for that invitation to the event. I will now turn it over to Commissioner Smith to read the proclamation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before I read the proclamation, I'd like to read a short poem by Charles Provence. It is the soldier, not the minister, who has given us freedom of religion. It is the soldier, not the reporter, who has given us freedom of the press. It is the soldier, not the poet, who has given us freedom of speech. It is the soldier, not the campus organizer, who has given us freedom to protest. It is the soldier, not the lawyer, who has given us the right to a fair trial. It is the soldier, not the politician, who has given us the right to vote. It is the soldier who salutes the flag, who serves beneath the flag, and whose coffin is draped by the flag, who allows the protester to burn the flag. And our proclamation for today. Whereas on Memorial Day, America understands its solemn duty to remember the brave Americans who sacrificed their lives for the cause of freedom and the security of our nation. And whereas we are constantly reminded that there are those in the world who would attempt to deprive us of our freedom and undermine our nation's very foundation. And whereas military men and women from Johnston County have served our nation throughout America's history, with 284 Johnston County service members losing their lives in action in World War I, World War II, the Korean War, the Vietnam War, the Gulf War, in the war in Iraq and Afghanistan. And whereas by honoring these proud soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Coast Guard men lost throughout our country's history, we renew our commitment to upholding the democratic ideals they fought and died to preserve. And whereas the citizens of Johnston County must never take for granted our privileges and freedoms, or forget to give thanks and honor to those who have risked their lives so that we may enjoy our many blessings. Now, therefore, the Johnston County Board of Commissioners does hereby proclaim May 27, 2024 as Memorial Day in Johnston County and urges citizens to remember the bravery of those who gave their lives so that their sacrifice serve as a reminder of the cost of our freedom. Adopted this 6th day of May 2024, Butch Lauder, Chairman.
And I assume that's in the form of a motion.
Motion, it is.
I'll second the motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Nay. The proclamation is approved. All right, the next item is approval and/or discussion of the agenda. Are there any items that need adjustment or any additions to the agenda?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve the agenda as presented.
Second. All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of that motion, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, the agenda is approved. Next up, we have a consent agenda with 14 items on it today, so I'm going to attempt to kind of summarize these very quickly. We have approval of our April 1st meetings, both the 10 o'clock and the 6 o'clock. We have a call for a public hearing for our fiscal year budget for 24-25. That is June the 3rd at our 10 o'clock meeting, so it'll be at this meeting on June the 3rd. We also have one to terminate the agreement between the U.S. Marshal's Office and Johnston County, and that was to house some federal detainees. I think that had been a 25-year contract that we're ending there. We also have a memorandum of understanding with the Capital Area Metropolitan Planning Organization, which is basically just to add some new members to that organization. We also have a resolution of support for the Southeast Area study that was done and recently completed. That was a 2-year study. We did have that, and with a couple of additions and requests for additional studies. We also have a request for positions from our emergency services and our Johnston County inspections department, both related to I'll say more than one, but commercial and industrial projects in the county. We also have a proposed budget for fiscal year 24-25 for the Juvenile Crime Prevention Council, which I believe is basically the same budget as we've had in the past. We also have approval of the Health Department fees for 24-25. We have a request from Parks and Greenways and Open Space for a design build project at our regional park. We also have a request from Public Utilities for sole sourcing some equipment and improvements at our wastewater treatment plant on the expansion. And finally, we have some budget revisions for the airport, finance, and sheriffs. The first two are primarily pass-throughs that come to us, and we redistribute it onto the airport and for our the fire departments. And then the next to final item is we have some appointments to our Economic Development Advisory Board, and we have the town of Kenly and Wilson Mills have made their appointments, and Delmore and Carolyn Dobbin to those. And finally, we have our tax releases and refunds from March the 16th through April the 15th. So are there any items that need to be withdrawn for further discussion? If not, I'll entertain a motion to
I
approve.
just have one quick question, Mr.
Yes,
Chairman.
sir.
The part about Parks, Greenways, and Open Space, that was just establishing the framework for that. It wasn't a particular project at this time, is that right?
That's right, yeah, it was just to use that construction method to proceed forward when that time comes.
I move that the consent agenda be adopted.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the consent agenda is approved. Next up, we have public comments. We do have 3 young women here who are to present to us, and I don't know who's going first, but we have Miss Cleveland, teen, Miss Johnson County teen, and Miss Smithfield, teen, or just straight up Miss Smithfield? Teen, okay, I just want to make sure. I couldn't see over that far. So I don't know who wants to come first, but you have 3 minutes to come forward, so I'll let you decide the order.
All right, good morning. My name is Delaney Privet, Miss Cleveland's teen. Thank you all so much for having me here to speak a little bit today about my community service initiative. My community service initiative, the Delaney Difference, is creating the next generation of volunteers in our community. I learned at a young age the importance of helping others, and I want to encourage people to become helpful leaders in their community. To learn more about my community service initiative platform and the Miss America organization, you can follow my Instagram, Miss Cleveland's Teen on Instagram, or go to my website, thedelaneydifference.com. Again, thank you all so much for having me.
All right.
Thank you for what you do.
Thank you.
Very good.
Hi, my name is Mary Michael McClam. I'm Miss Johnston County's teen. So this is under the Miss America opportunity. So it's all about personal growth, and Miss America is the biggest scholarship provider for women. So it's an amazing experience. In the past 6 months, I've gained so much knowledge and changed so much, and it's just been amazing. So I want to talk to you a little bit how we give back, which is our community service initiatives. Mine is because one is too many. This is all about drowning prevention. The leading cause of death in ages 0 to 4 is drowning. Unfortunately, 945 children are projected to drown next year in America. Because of this, I've worked with both Four Oaks and Princeton to develop free swim lessons for everyone in town limits. So I would love to do this all across Johnston County. If you have any resources to make this happen, I would love your help. In Four Oaks, I'm using the town, Mr. Vic Medlin. He has provided the funding to be able to do this. And then in Princeton, we're actually using the Carolina Swims Foundation, which is a grant program, and so they'll help provide the funding, and I'll help provide the certified lifeguards to help teach children, especially underprivileged children, how to swim, which is amazing because children living in a household income of under $60,000 a year have a 70% chance of never learning how to swim. So this is something that I feel is very important as a lifeguard in the community, and I would love your help. So if you have any resources to help me, here's a little paper about
Here,
what
just
I'm
give it to our clerk right there. She'll make sure we all get it. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And then that's all I have for you today, and I really appreciate your time and the opportunity to come speak with you all. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Tell me your name again.
I'm Mary Michael McClam.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Chloe Joyner. I'm Miss Smithfield's teen. And I will say one thing that they didn't mention. All 3 of us are competing for Miss North Carolina's teen in June, and so we are working very hard to prepare for that. But part of that is our community service initiatives, where we're working very hard to promote those in our community, me, Smithfield, Mary Michael, Johnston County, Cleveland. But if we win, it does become a statewide thing, so we are working very hard to prepare ourselves for that. So a little bit about my community service initiative. It's called Tabs for Time. I work with the Ronald McDonald House. I collect pop tabs to generate monetary funds for the Ronald McDonald House. I've collected over 2 million tabs now and paid for 176 nights at the Ronald McDonald House. So recently I've also held a rockathon Saturday at the Ham and Yam Festival. I'm almost to my goal of $3,000 to be able to adopt a room at the Ronald McDonald House to cover a family's stay for the entire year. So this is something that I'm very passionate about. I've been doing it since kindergarten, so it's something that I love to do, and for these girls as well. It's not just about helping the community, but it's also things that we are very passionate about and enjoy. So thank you. I'm honored to be able to speak with y'all today, and have a great rest of y'all's day.
Thank you.
Thank
All right.
you.
Thank you.
Do you want to get a picture?
Yeah. Yes.
I think it's fair to
Since
say.
we're all dressed up.
Yeah.
Let's get a picture. Yeah.
I think it's fair to say we're going to have good representation at Miss North Carolina's teen.
Yeah.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Just trying to move it. It wasn't moving.
Yep.
All right. Let me take a few of these.
They make us look good, don't they?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies.
All right, is there anyone else in the audience here to speak on an item that is not on the agenda? Before I read all these well-written words by our legal counsel. All right. Seeing no one coming forward to that, Madam Clerk, I don't think we received any emails for that. Okay. All right, that brings us to the next item, which is Emergency Services Proclamation. And, all right, Ted Hardy. I was going from memory there for a minute. That was kind of scary. I think we've both known each other longer than we want to admit, and so I just wanted to make sure.
We've done dunk tank together.
Yeah, that's right, that's right. So, and then Commissioner Harris will read the proclamation. But
Yeah, so we really appreciate the opportunity to stand before you this morning, and as always, we appreciate the support that you've given us over the years. What you've done and what you've helped us with over the years allows us to continue to act and deliver on our mission. I'm really proud to stand here before you today on behalf of our team at Johnston County Emergency Services. Director Kevin Hubbard, he sends his apologies. He got tied up on a major incident this morning, which is, what we're here to do. So he sends his apologies. We'd also hoped to have some of our field staff in here with us this morning, but they're also off to an extremely busy start this morning. They're out doing what we're here to do, which is provide excellent care and quality service to the citizens of Johnston County. So I'm here to support the proclamation for EMS Week, to recognize our many great providers that are out there doing great work in our community.
Fantastic. Very good.
thank you.
All right.
Commissioner.
I will say over the years, when EMS was involved in a dinner or lunch, and we always let them eat first because you never knew at any second they were going to have to leave and be gone. So we totally understand. But
I've witnessed that too, when they're sitting down, all of a sudden something goes and they all leave and all the food is still there.
they're out doing their job. That's great. The proclamation for Emergency Medical Services Week, May 19th through the 25th, 2024. Whereas emergency medical services is a vital public service, and whereas the members of emergency medical services teams are ready to provide life-saving care to those in need 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And whereas access to quality emergency care dramatically improves the survival and recovery rate of those who experience sudden illness or injury. Whereas the emergency medical services system consists of emergency physicians, emergency medical technicians, paramedics, firefighters, educators, administrators, telecommunicators, and others. And whereas the members of emergency medical services team, whether career or volunteer, engage in thousands of hours of specialized training and continuing education to enhance their life-saving skills. And whereas it is appropriate to recognize the value and the accomplishments of emergency medical services providers by designating Emergency Medical Services Week, now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Commissioners of Johnston County does hereby proclaim May 19th through the 25th, 2024 as Emergency Medical Services Week in Johnston County in recognition of this event, adopted this 6th day of May 2024. And, Mr. Chairman, I'll make that in the form of a motion to approve.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion, comments? All right, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Motion carries.
Thank you very much. We
Thank you for the extraordinary
Thank
work.
you.
We appreciate you. Thank you.
All right, next up, we have a presentation from Executive Director of Community and Senior Services, Johnston, on some of the services that they provide.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I initially requested to come before you to make my formal proposal for the annual match for the home community-based block grant. But Mr. Hester advised that it was already in the budget. So number one, I wanted to thank you for that. Not all counties in North Carolina are as generous in supporting senior services as Johnston County is. So number one, thank you. Number two, Starting in July 1, the next fiscal year, we are going to be doing some new services for the community that I've identified in my first year here in Johnston County. First of all, being providing home improvements to allow older adults to remain in their own homes. We're talking grab bars for showers and bathrooms, wheelchair ramps, things like that, just to make the home safer. And another thing I would like to do is partner with emergency management. We've had a few instances that is not even within the scope of what we do, where somebody that's not even a client has reached out for help because they do not have a working smoke detector in their home. So our guys will go into the house and also check smoke detectors, make sure they're operating, and if they're not operating, we will replace them. And then just in an effort to be able to keep people in their homes safe and secure as long as they possibly can. I didn't know that proclamation was on the agenda, but I also want to say that my Meals on Wheels drivers, they deliver hundreds of meals a day, and they are kind of the second line of defense for emergency, for EMS, because they're doing that wellness check on those seniors to make sure that they're there, and sometimes it's the only contact that that person may have in that day. And we do have instances where they'll knock on the door to deliver the meal, and that person will have fallen and been on the ground for hours, and we're able to call 911 to get that person help. So what we do there is very important. We're also going to look for things to do to expand our Meals on Wheels next year. Right now we have around 270 people on the wait list. And I would like to find some alternate streams of funding to get that wait list down, because most of that is because of a lack of federal funding. But some of it is because of just a lack of volunteer drivers in some of our rural areas. So I've been engaging with businesses to try to get them to just take one route a week or one route a month, just something to help. I worked with a bank last week, and they've agreed to pick up a weekly route here in Smithfield. And along with Smithfield, our dining center over on Bridge Street, right now that is designated only for senior dining. They really only come to have their meal and they leave. But what I've seen is they hang out and they socialize with each other, and they want to be there. So we're making an application to make that a satellite center for active aging, like the active aging centers we have in Benson, Selma, and Clayton. So we can direct some additional funding to that center so they can have some more formal activities and education. So we've got, aside from my other job at JCATS, we do have a lot going on at CSS as well. So, again, I just wanted to take a moment to thank you for everything, and if there are no questions, again, thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Jensen?
I have a quick question. For the public's knowledge, is there a way for the community to also donate and volunteer, and if so, how do they find out about that?
They just reach out to us at cssjohnston.org, our website, or call us at 919-966-6066.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Josh, did you say the biggest impediment from expanding those meals would be the availability of volunteer drivers?
The biggest is federal funding, but the lack of volunteer drivers is impacting us.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I did have one comment, and I appreciate you bringing up about the Meals on Wheels drivers, because you're 100% correct. That is a great contact with those individuals. And we'll add that our local fire departments also provide smoke detectors for those folks at no additional cost as well, and we'll actually go and install them for them. So there's a lot of great services out there to help our aging population, and we're very proud of that and happy to continue supporting it.
And as the elderly population grows in this county, we're trying to grow with it and meet those evolving needs. 20 years ago, you wouldn't have had an older adult worry about internet, and now you do. So it's ever changing.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Josh.
Thank you, Josh. All right, the next item is a request for bond referendum for Johnston Community College, and Dr. Vern Lindquist is here to present to us on that. He's brought some friends, I see.
Just a few. Actually, I won't be the only person speaking to you today, so that will make you happy, I'm sure. I want to thank whoever put the agenda together for not putting us directly after the Miss Teens. I look a lot better if there's space between them and me. none of this will come as a surprise to you. You know, I gave you an overview some months past about our master planning process from a 20,000-foot overview. And in December of '22, interim President Boham made a request of this body on behalf of the trustees for a bond. In between now and then, of course, we have completed the master planning process. We have a much better idea about what kind of facility we need to serve the residents of this county in the foreseeable future in a lot more detail. Our master plan was conducted at great expense, and it gave us a lot of detailed knowledge about what we can expect as far as future enrollment growth, and also what kinds of programs the college is going to need to serve the county in the period coming up. So what I'd like to do first is ask my board chair, Lynn Austin, who I think is a person well known to you and to everyone else in this county, to talk a little bit about what the project means from her perspective. After that, I have a student who will talk a little bit about the project, and then Tom Williams, the director of UNC Health Johnston, and also, thankfully, a member of my board, will talk about the kinds of things that the college will need to do to help him to serve the residents of this county. So.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Thank you, Vern. I've served under every president that has ever been at Johnston Community College, so I have been through all the ups and downs with the college and with the county. And what I've learned through those 30 years is that it really is the college job to prepare our county for the future. The college is always looking at tomorrow, not at today. And it seems to me like the growth we have experienced, we haven't had a lot of say in. A lot has come to us and a lot will be coming to us. But what we do have say in is how we need that future and how we prepare for the future. The greater part of the growth has happened in western Johnston County, Clayton, Cleveland, Archer's Lodge. And when you hear us say that 1,200 of our Johnston County prospective students have gone to another community college, we're really talking about the mass majority of those students coming from that western area. And most of them, I believe, are going to Wake Tech, and they are going to study, most likely, health services and public safety, and in the future, it'll be biotech. And if you think that it's somehow advantageous for Wake County to pay for the education of our students, I want you to consider this. 80% of community college graduates stay and work in the county that they graduate from. So we're losing a big part of our workforce and our taxpayers to another county. And at the worst time, just when the hospital is expanding in Clayton and our biotech industries in Clayton are growing. When Commissioner Fred Smith was first a senator, I learned two things from him that I have repeated hundreds of times in these years. One of them was that for every 3 students that the community college graduates and sends to the university, we get 6 back. They're coming to be skilled, trained, maybe to learn how to manage a business. And the second thing that I learned was when we were having a legislative breakfast, and it was in a recession year, we were losing jobs left and right all through the county. And every official stood up at the end of that breakfast and they said, we do love the college, but there is no money. And then Fred waited till the last to speak, and he stood up and he said, Lynn, don't you ever let anybody tell you there is no money. There's always money. It is just a matter of priority. When Wake Tech opened their IT center at the Research Triangle Park, I happened to be standing by a woman who turned out to be the chairman of the board of the Wake Board of Commissioners. And I looked at her and I said, you just don't know how envious our Board of Trustees are to the amount of support that you give Wake Tech. Please tell me what the secret is. And she looked at me and she said, I can tell you what it is. The Board of Commissioners of Wake County fully understand what Wake Tech means to the prosperity of Wake County and to the future of Wake County. So what I would ask you to do as you consider this bond issue is consider what the community college really means to this county. We've traditionally been given about 10% of any education bond that's been presented. And I wonder if somehow you value the community college 10%. We know this is a big ask. It's a bigger ask than we have ever presented to you. But every study that we have had done for the past 20 years has told us pretty much the same thing. We really need to serve the people in western Johnston County more than we have been. And I submit to you that it is the right thing to do, and now is the right time to do it. So we do appreciate your consideration. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Hi. I don't know. Can y'all hear me? My name is Robin Matthews, and I am currently a nursing student for Johnston Community College, but I also have a unique perspective in the fact that I am a paramedic for Johnston County EMS, and I'm also a staff member at UNC Johnston Clayton. So I see a lot of different perspectives, and when I first heard about this Clayton facility, I was so excited. I have many students in my preceptor role that come from other counties that are students for paramedic, and a lot of times it was their first exposure to Johnston County and the county EMS, and when I start telling them all of the great benefits that we have and the community college and my love and passion for the community college, they sometimes are regretful that they didn't start there. And so I feel the more that we can get more students into our community college that can stay in our community, the hospitals, the counties, the public safety in itself, we can keep them in our community. For me, I'm a little nervous. For me, I think that we have great faculty, we have great staff, we have a great community, we have a great county. Obviously, we have really great commissioners. But if we don't keep up with those that are around us in these surrounding counties, we will not have the students that will not grow into the job roles that we have. And I feel that although we are making some changes with the college, some great facelifts, we really need to do something to bring in more in that western area so they don't go to the adjoining counties. Do y'all have any questions?
Thank you. We wouldn't have known you were nervous if you hadn't told us.
I know. Oh, good.
Did great.
Hank's coming in. So I just want to go on the record saying I did not have to prompt her to say that about you guys.
Chairman Lauder and Commissioners, Hank Daniels speaking on behalf of JCC. But I'd first like to thank Commissioner Smith and the board for that proclamation about Memorial Day. Memorial Day has always been for me the beginning of summer until my son, joined the Air Force. He's been in the active Air Force for the last 10 years. And it really gave me appreciation what our military men and women do throughout the world. I mean, he served in Afghanistan, Iraq, all over the Middle East, and I do appreciate what our military does, especially when you think about only about 1% of our citizens of the United States actually serve in the military. I think it was like 7% maybe during Vietnam War. It's only about 1% now. But anyway, the business at hand, it was great to see some of you at the opening of Amazon. And one of the things I got from that was said that these jobs will keep our people in Johnston County rather than driving to Wake County and beyond. There are likewise the JCC campus in the Clayton area will keep Johnstonians here as well. And it provides more facilities at the main campus for fire, EMS, and BLET. So we hope that you will consider our plan done by our LSCP, a great organization, and allow our bond for JCC. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Hank.
Good morning. I'm Tommy Williams. I'm the CEO of UNC Health Johnston. I was coming to speak in favor of our bond request and the positive impact it will have on our workforce needs. So to start with, I kind of want to set the table for you of what's the current state of our hospital and how busy we are. As you guys know, we have 199 beds between our two facilities, one in Smithfield and Clayton. Smithfield has 149 beds. We also have a 20 behavioral health unit. We're adding 6 more at the end of this month. Those 6 beds will be full the day we open them up. We also have 50 beds in Clayton. We're at capacity all the time. Frequently, we're holding between 10 and 30 patients in our emergency departments who are waiting for a discharge before they can get a bed. I checked the census when I was in the hospital this morning. We're currently holding 24, waiting for admission in both hospitals, 17 in Smithfield, 7 in Clayton. Essentially turns our emergency departments into inpatient unit. That's mainly because of the growth that we have. We're offering more complex care as well. Things like code stroke designation, code STEMI for myocardial infarctions, so patients do not have to go to Wake County for this care, this life-saving care. They can receive that with us. The workforce challenges are with that as well, how busy that you are, and it's important for our partnership with the community college program because that's where we get all of our help. I know we talk about with healthcare workers a great deal because we get nurses, ultrasound techs, rad techs, phlebotomy, but we also get plumbers and HVAC technicians as well. Some of the hardest jobs for me to fill not only are nursing but also plumbers. Our current state of need, we employ over 2,000, and we have had a 38% growth since 2019 to meet the needs of our growing medical needs for our community. Currently, I have 188 full-time openings, 73 are full-time RNs, 8 of those are surge techs. The way we've been able to keep our beds functioning, we have never closed a bed, nor did we ever close any beds throughout the pandemic. We're one of the few hospitals in the area that never closed any beds. We have a lot of contracts nurses. We have 11 external contracts now, but we also have 62 internal contracts where we offer premium pay to PRN staff for an agreed-upon length of assignment. It's not something that you can maintain over a long term because of the cost of those programs, and that's why we rely so much on our JCC partnership and community colleges to keep those beds open. We have a future need for 24 beds. We have petitioned the state for 24 more beds since we are a certificate of need state, and those beds, we're going through that process now. It's a $100 million project. We're looking at expansion for the Clayton campus. We're also adding 12 new monitored beds to the Smithfield campus. So both campuses will receive the benefit of that for our growing population. When that is open, we should have that certificate of need sometime this fall. We were the only ones that applied for that, which is good. It shortens that time frame. It's about a 3-year bill by the time we do all the process of planning and permitting. And by the time we do that, we also will have a 3rd floor in Clayton that we will build out with this for future growth. I have stated to my board that by the time that hospital is opened up, we will already be petitioning the state for those additional 24 beds. So what does that mean for staff? This additional 24 beds and additional 12 observation beds, our staffing needs would be about 68 additional staff, RNs, CNAs, monitor techs, and other support staff. So that ongoing growth is not only for what we need today, but what we need to meet the needs of the future. In closing, the ongoing support and growth of the healthcare programs at JCC is critical to the support of our ongoing growth of our hospitals. We're also committed to provide clinical rotations for any and all of these students as well, because that attracts. If we can get them here, they have good experiences, then they will stay here with us, and that's what we need. I recognize that we're in a fortunate position. I have colleagues across the state who are trying to figure out how to keep their hospitals open while I'm talking about expansion. So it's a good place to be in. It's a good problem to have. I also understand the challenges of weighing the needs with limited resources, just like all of you guys do. I know we've probably shared sleepless nights, and we try to figure out how we balance those needs and how we meet those needs of the community with what we have. I want to thank each of you for your personal commitment, and I appreciate your consideration of this.
Thank you. Thank you, Tommy.
You're smiling at me, Commissioner Harris.
Might as well smile.
I'm Connie Grady. I'm from Four Oaks, and I've been in healthcare in this county many, many years. I started at UNC, which was Johnston Memorial, as director of ICU. I was a graduate nurse. I am still the youngest nurse manager that UNC, Mr. Williams, has ever had. And I did that for about 8 years, and then I became the director of educational services. Had the honor of working with Mr. Hester's wife in education. And I decided to retire, and Dr. Linda Smith and Dee Dee Daughtry picked me up. I retired from Johnston Health on a Friday and started with them on Monday. So I've been here a while. During my education director position, I served as the EMS nurse liaison for this county for 21 years. So EMS is near and dear to my heart, and I'm excited that y'all have done the proclamation for them for May, but I also want to tell you today is National Nurses Day. And I have Ms. Fortson from my faculty in the back with all these nurse aid students, and we have some BLET and EMS students here today in support of this bond referendum for the western part of our county. I do want to tell you that my programs serve over 1,000 students a year. Right now, I have 3 nurse aid labs on campus. My faculty are just all over the place. And we also have one in at the Cleveland campus. I will also tell you that for pass rates, for national pass rates, we're 100% in my programs. And our nurse aid is top in the state at 99.82%. The state rate for pass rate in the nurse aid program is a whopping 76%.
Wow.
We set the bar high. I'm a graduate of Barton College, and of course it was called Atlantic Christian then, Mr. Godwin. So when I became a nurse and I went into nursing, the nurse aid program was Nursing 101. So we work very closely with the county agencies here, from the public safety programs to the hospital. We supply a lot of their labor needs from my programs. All the ones that Mr. Williams mentioned, they take these programs to get into upper level healthcare programs. We're very proud of our students and the mission that they accomplish every day. I want to tell you that Mr. Harris and I have worked for over 20 years trying to get us a simulation lab for Johnston County so that public safety and the healthcare programs can utilize that, as well as the hospital, the sheriff's department, and all those agencies. And the health department. I see Mr. Strickland in the back, so we work closely too. So we really need this bond for a state-of-the-art healthcare program based entity in western Johnston County. I will also tell you, with Johnston County Public Schools, we work very closely with them. Most of them are doing away with their nurse aid programs, and we are getting the numbers. So I told Mr. McCormick, who I report to, who's standing behind me, that we could use an additional 2 nursing labs in my area to meet the needs of the students that we have at Johnston Community College. We have really grown the programs at Johnston Community College, and we need this programming to move to a new building so we can do simulations and work with all these agencies. So I'm going to leave you with a quote. I used to teach at the hospital, and I want you to take this to heart because we need this bond referendum. And that is, never underestimate the difference that you can make, because each of you can make a difference. And that's what we're doing at Johnston Community College to grow our workforce. I thank you for your time today and your consideration to the commitment that we make from Johnston Community College to the students and to the community and to the workforce needs. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'd like to leave you with just a couple of points, and I know that we've pretty much used up our time, so I will be brief. The 1,200 students that we are told by the state that we lose each year to Wake Tech costs us in state aid about $5 million a year. That's $5 million that we don't have to improve our services, but also that is not circulating in the economy of Johnston County. That's currently. They just opened, Wake Tech, a new campus in Wendell. They have plans to open another one in White Oak. I fear that that number may go up. So even though this $5 million a year is money we have not yet seen, the money we stand to lose in the future, should they be more successful in getting students to leave this county for Wake, would be substantial and potentially very damaging to the college. The size of the facility we're proposing is less than what is being recommended by our master planning team at LS3P. They arrived at that size based on market research and the 15 months that they studied it. We're asking for less than that, though, because we want to be good stewards of the county's money, as well as promoting what we need to do. The request we're making now is a little more than the request that Ken Boehm made just over a year and a half ago. But that is because his request did not include any public safety projects. Ours does include some of those projects as well. Our enrollment at the college now is at historic highs. We've never had this many students before. The projections that LS3P gave us for our enrollment growths are proving to be actually modest. That is, we're exceeding those predictions. And I think we're going to be having at least high single digits, if not double-digit increases for the foreseeable future. Space is already tight on campus, especially with public safety. Sometimes to make classes run, they have to move things out of a room so that they can do the class and then move things back in. We're making do as best we can, but we can't continue to make more bricks with less straw. We're going to need this facility if we're going to be able to properly serve the residents of Johnston County. So I thank you very much for your time and attention. I thank all the folks who came with me. Do
you mind getting the different groups so we can tell the trustees from the staff, from the students?
Sure. Well, would the trustees wave at everybody? Okay, there they are.
And I can vouch that that is a very hard-working group of trustees, some of the hardest-working people
So
that I've ever worked with.
the folks in public safety and BLET folks and all that, wave at us. The nursing people, you can tell who they are.
Yeah.
And then the rest of our students, would you all?
Yeah.
CJ, there we are. You can tell who the students are too. They're younger and better looking than we are. Anyway, thank you very much for your time and attention.
Are there any here that are on the commissioner's promise?
Oh yeah, I don't know any of the students who are on the commissioner's promise.
Well, yeah, most of these students are continuing ed, and right now those students aren't eligible for that, but we may be asking you to expand that.
Okay.
I would like to say Happy Nurses Day.
Happy Nurses.
Is it actually today? Today. That's fantastic. Thank you for all you're doing. And the nursing program's doing an extraordinary job. I will say I've worked around the college for the last 30, I don't know how many years, a long time, but anyway. But it's, everyone out there does a great job, and it's really, really an important part of the community. So thank you.
Thank you for your kindness.
And I would just say, for Nurses Day, in January when I was at Johnston Health in Clayton, the nurses there, my first question now is when I say, where did you go to college? And so I'm very pleased when they say JCC. Yeah. And I had several of those, and to hear about their experience at JCC meant a lot as I was in there, kind of nervous about what I was getting ready to go through, but they made me feel comfortable. So thanks to all the nurses. All right.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you all. We'll give a second for the room to clear out. All right, last one out is making sure we're safe, so appreciate that, Will.
Yeah, nobody gets by him.
Yeah, that's right. I will say, it's not related to anything on the agenda, but I find it ironic on the last day that Mr. Braswell's seat is open that his spirit has spoken through Commissioner Smith's phone and decided to activate a phone. Yeah, I was going to say it's almost a tradition for Tony to have something go off. So the fact that it's friend's phone is
It was on silent.
I will agree. It was on silent when I grabbed it.
That was what Tony always said.
No, it was on silent.
Yeah. So,
I don't know how it did that.
it's magic. So the next item up is a presentation from Davenport on our water sewer financial update, or an update on that, and I will call on Kyle L. I'm always afraid to pronounce your last name, so how about Kyle L.?
That
and I'll
works.
let you handle the pronunciation.
It's Laux, but I will submit that sometimes when I say it, I'm not sure I'm saying it right either, so.
Well, look, I say Lauder, and it sounds like a D, so I get all kinds of spellings of that, so yeah.
Totally understood. And we've got, I think we'll grab the clicker here, and this presentation up on the screen. Mr. Chair, members of the board, nice to see you as always. We have hard copies of it. I guess we'll leave them with the clerk. I think everything's up there already. And so, again, Kyle Laux with Davenport, nice to see you as always. Here this morning with an update on some financing for the water and sewer system. You may recall over the last several years, the needs on that water and sewer system as you grow and evolve as a county, those sort of go hand in hand in terms of the need to continue to invest both for upkeep and regulatory purposes, as well as to make sure you've got sufficient capacity for purposes of the future. And so we're here today with an update. There is a financing that will occur over the course of the next couple months. We'll brief you on the next steps there. But we also want to give a little bit of a picture in terms of the future. And so for the moment, as we talk here, as we think about where we are right now and moving into this bond issue, you're in very good shape. But there are some things we want to make sure we point out to the board is there's definitely challenges within the world of water and sewer, not specific to Johnston County. But we don't expect you'll be immune to those, and so we want to make sure proactively we're briefing you on those things and can be addressing them going forward. And so with that, we've got a little bit of a background here. I think I'll just kind of move, Mr. Chair, briefly over that and go right to the second page here. So just for purposes of big picture, maybe for the audience and the public and the board, you obviously know this, but the county owns and operates both water and wastewater systems. You can see those listed up there on the screen. Importantly, they are what we call self-supporting or self-liquidating, meaning they run as their own business within the county's overall business, and thus we need to make sure, and I say we collectively, you obviously as the board, need to make sure that both in the current year and in future years, the revenues that are derived from that system, from people paying their water and sewer bills and from building new houses, new commercial development, making sure that those revenues are sufficient to fully cover the expenses of running that business, meaning the water and sewer business. That's a best practice. The rating agencies expect that. The state and the LGC expects that. And that's something that you've done for a long time period. So a lot of what we're doing here is not just thinking about maybe the next page in terms of next fiscal year, but how do we make sure we continue into the future, knowing that you've got a lot of needs, knowing you're a rapidly evolving and growing county, how do we make sure you're in good shape? Page 3, again, just a little bit more background. A point we'll make at the top of the page here is that one of the reasons of those we just stated that we need to make sure water and sewer is standing on its own is it helps to protect and support the general fund. So we always, in our role, and you as a board, have both sides of the equation on our mind, meaning we know the general fund, it's in very good shape. We've got our AAA credit ratings on the general fund. We also have a bunch of needs on the general fund side of things. And so one of the ways that we protect and make sure that general fund continues to be in good shape and continues to be able to garner the highest possible credit ratings is by making sure that the utility fund is not in any way a drag on the general fund. So the focus of today's conversation is very much on utilities, but we always kind of have the, call it the big picture in our mind, both sides of the equation. Bottom of the page here, we've highlighted this in a green box. The utility system has its own credit ratings, separate and aside from the county's AAA credit ratings. They are supported by really the business of water and sewer that you have as a county, meaning those user fees, those user revenues that are generated by folks that are either paying their periodic bill and or connecting to the system. So you see those credit ratings at the bottom of the page, AA2 from Moody's, AA plus from the Standard & Poor's. Those are very, very strong credit ratings. Even though they're a notch or two off of the general fund, those are excellent credit ratings for purposes of a water and sewer system. So we'll just make that point. And one of the areas of focus is to make sure we can continue to show the rating agencies that the water and sewer system remains in good shape.
I have a quick question for you, Kyle, if I may. You know, we worked hard over the years to try to achieve the AAA bond rating for our county in general. And we've talked about the elements that need to come together to get that kind of rating and how it impacts our ability to borrow. Where we're at with the utility ratings, have you seen any significant impact on our borrowing abilities and that? I mean, are we in no good shape? Do we need to strive to work towards a AAA there, or are we okay where we're at?
I think your question, Mr. Godwin, was a perfect segue to the rest of the presentation.
Good.
And I think there's two parts to that. I think there is what do we look like today as we move into this next financing, which is in good shape. I think the next piece of it is what do we look like into the future, given what you have, and I mentioned some of those pressures with the size of the capital investment that's been identified, with some of the pressures on inflationary operational costs that are not unique to Johnston County. Those are industry-wide. So some of those areas in terms of the credit ratings, we are watching very closely, and I'll give you some more details in a couple pages here, but I think it's really a two-part. How are we today versus how are we positioned for the future? And we've got some challenges in the future. We'll say that very directly. It's all projections for the moment, but we do think we've got some challenges we're going to need to think through over the next several years. And so again, Mr. Godwin, to your excellent segue question in terms of what do the rating agencies care about, sort of what are they looking at when they come up with those credit ratings that are specific to water and sewer. There's a bunch of numbers on this page, but you and the board are probably used to seeing these on the general fund. This is Moody's, and this is their specific, call it methodology, or the way they come up with the credit ratings for water and sewer system. I'm not going to go through every single line item here, but importantly, a couple of things that we're watching very closely that are call it within the county and the board's control, we've highlighted with some green shading, hopefully it shows up on the screen there, financial strength and management. And so analogous to when we talk about the general fund, we talk about the fund balance, we talk about our debt policies, there are similar concepts on the utility fund. They have different names and a little bit different way of looking at them because water and sewer is a little bit of a different animal, but similar kind of basic concepts. And those are circled around making sure we've got really strong reserves and making sure we have good cash flow with which to pay our debt service and our operating expenditures. And so that's what you see, and it accounts for about 40% of the rating. And so if the total rating pie is 100%, 4 slices out of that pie, or 40%, is really tied to those financial metrics. One other thing I'll point out here, that 20% then below that is in the management side of things. And so that really gets to the board and your staff, which is excellent, in how do you manage year to year and planning and strategizing. And when the need arises to raise rates, what are you able and willing to do as a county? And at some level, that is just the cost of doing business today within water and sewer, really anywhere in the country. So we point out those 2 specific factors. And just a little bit of history before we do some of the projections. One of those most important financial metrics is what we call the debt service coverage ratio. So it's basically a measurement that says, how many dollars do we have after we've paid our operating expenses to pay the annual payments on our existing debt service? The higher the number, the better. So this is more like basketball than it is golf, meaning you want a higher number in terms of debt service coverage. And what we've seen over the last couple of years is the county's water and sewer system is in good shape, but there is pressure on what we'll call the margins. And so we've highlighted that with some of those red arrows there. 2021, you saw a debt service coverage ratio of about 2.9. Sometimes put an X behind there, so 2.9X, again, higher number better. That was kind of our high water mark. That's a very, very solid mark. As we do the planning and the projection going forward, because of a variety of factors that we'll talk about, we see that margin, so to speak, getting narrowed a fair amount. We think that's driven by a couple different things. Pressure on your operating costs. So we've all talked about and are aware of inflation and how that's impacted the world and the economy over the last several years. That's been especially true within the area of water and sewer. And so we've seen some of that inflationary impact, not just in Johnston County. We see it industry-wide, just on the operational side of things. Second, there's a lot more regulatory demands on a water and sewer system. Those are handed down to you in large respect from the state and federal government. In some cases, they have come with some nice grant funding, and so it's been a nice offset here for the last several years in terms of grant funding. I think one of the challenges we see going forward is the likelihood that we get big grant dollars is probably less likely than with the last couple of years, just as some of that federal stimulus money and ARPA dollars have kind of worked their way through the system.
Kyle.
Sir.
Can I interrupt you?
You may.
First off, it's always great to hear from you. You're so competent, and this county is lucky to have you as an advisor. So let me just say that. And I think you're right on the DSC. It is taking a hit. But I think we need to not, the snapshot we're taking now, we need to put it in proper perspective. And the inflationary factors you're talking about are all true. But whether it be banking or whether it be any other business, almost all businesses now, because of the Fed's high interest rate and because of lagging inflation, are struggling with DSC. And I think the news we got last week is, I believe, and the intelligence that I can get from listening to experts, is that's the turning point to where the Fed is going to lower interest rates. And so I think this is going to look much better a year from now. And I only just wanted to say that so that we don't, this snapshot was within 30 days ago or whatever, or which I think is before what I believe to be the turning point, and that, of course, I realize the cost of inflation and a lot of that stuff still is going to be there. But I just wanted to point that out. And
it's a good point, Mr. Smith, as always. And I mean, I think my reaction to that would be, again, going back to when we were talking with Mr. Godwin, I think there's a two-part here in terms of where are we in the very short run. You're in good shape. You're in good shape. You've got good debt service coverage. You have good cash on hand. You've done what you need to do in terms of running the water and sewer system. So by all means, I agree with you on that front. And maybe where we are guilty at times is on the
first,
longer term.
I don't want anything I said that I think all you're going to say is right, that we need to listen to it.
Yep.
I just wanted to make on the DSC point.
Yep.
I think we are at a low point that's, I believe, is going to somewhat, we will get relief in the next 12 months.
Very good.
That's the only point I wanted to make.
Yes, sir. Okay, so we see some of those trends there in terms of that debt service coverage. And we'll talk about maybe what that looks like going forward. So on the next page, we'll just give you a little snapshot of where we as Johnston County compare to other highly rated local governments both in the state and across the nation. And you can see our debt service coverage with about 2.2 times, again, given the snapshot year that we took there, most recent, compared to other similarly rated North Carolina local governments. We're right kind of in the mix there. You've got some Harnets on the high side at 5 times. We're in line with the high points, Union counties, Johnston, Gastonia, et cetera. And so there's also an element to this whereby where we as a county are in the, call it, growth and capital investment standpoint, that even aside from whether inflation's going up or going down, there's just a certain amount of investment that has been identified that'll have to be made. And so that's another big needle mover in terms of how our numbers here will be impacted going forward. But for the moment, we're in good shape. We continue to watch all this. The other financial element that we pay a lot of close attention to, similar to the general fund. On the general fund, we talk about fund balance. On the water and sewer side, we talk about days cash on hand. And it really is just a measurement of what are our reserves in the event that we have an emergency, we need to cash flow the operations of the system, et cetera. So as we sit here right now, as of 2023, we're about, call it 584 days cash on hand. That's a very solid level and one that we're going to continue to watch. But again, as we do these projections going forward, the size of your system will continue to grow. And so the sheer amount of dollars in there will likely need to grow, or at least we watch closely as the size of the budget in the system grows. Where are you on a comparative basis? In solid shape, but there are some that have even more cash on hand than that roughly 500 or 600 days. Again, maybe some anomalies there in terms of the union counties, et cetera. But those are really the two things that we balance a lot of in terms of watching the financial projections. Debt service coverage is our cash flow, and days cash on hand is our reserves. Another element that we've seen as we do these projections, and I should note the one other entity that isn't here today is you've got an excellent rate consultant in Wildan that's run a lot of these with us. One of the important variables as we think about the future here is how do we think about growth in the number of new users that are coming onto the system and being added to the business. As your system gets bigger and you have more and more users, the rate of change in the size of the system, while you're still adding new customers, may be slowing down, and that's what it looks like is happening. And so as we do the projections, that is something that we see whereby we're just not growing at the same pace relative to the size of the customer base that we were in the past. Not necessarily a negative per se, but it does impact the numbers as we've been growing at 5 to 6% a year. We're now projected to grow in the 3 to 4% a year range. That impacts things going forward. Similar story on the sewer side of the equation. again, as the retail side of the customer base that's so important to you is still growing and is projected to grow, but just at a slower pace than it was for the last 5 or so years. Page 12 then, in terms of the outstanding debt right now, you can see what that picture looks like on the bottom left-hand side. We basically have about level debt service payment. It actually goes up a little bit as one of the big state loans has come on. And so what that means is as we do the planning, as we do the projections for future investment, we have roughly level annual payments. We don't have a big decline. And so you can see that it's a little bit of a decline, but there's not like a big drop-off in the next 10 or so years with which to be sort of planning around. We've kind of used a lot of that with the recent investments that have been made. So as we add new things on top of it, we're layering additional layers on top of the cake. That also is an impact to the projections as we go forward. So that gets to, in terms of the immediacy here, the immediate need, as we've worked closely with your staff, that again is excellent, is on top of all these things. That is roughly $72 million down at the bottom there of new projects for water and sewer that's been identified in your CIP, was planned for last year, and so it's really rolling forward just that next iteration of investment into the CIP. So this in and of itself, we'll talk through the schedule, how that kind of pencils out, but that's really the next need, so to speak, of dollars to be financed. There'll be some more official actions that'll come back to the board in June to move forward on this. We wanted to brief you today so you knew what was kind of coming down the line. But again, all within your CIP, all investments for both new growth as well as rehabbing existing facilities, making sure you're compliant with regulatory requirements, et cetera. So we have $72 million plus or minus bond issue coming up this summer. Interest rate wise, Mr. Smith, to your point, regardless of what the Fed does or doesn't do in the next couple months, long-term borrowing rates remain very favorable. That's one of the reasons that our credit ratings being strong is so important, is that it allows us to finance things at the lowest possible interest rate. That then takes the pressure or puts the least amount of pressure onto your user base. So we just point that out, that borrowing rates are still quite favorable. Okay, so we'll get to some next steps here in the next couple pages, but this page is important in terms of the maybe current chapter versus future chapters and thinking about that. We've highlighted here your CIP. And you can see the little green box there. That's what we're going to borrow for right now. It's about $72 million, which is substantial, and needed investments for the water and sewer system. What we see, again, has been identified by the staff, is the next sort of wave of investment is really very substantial. So you can see that if you go to your I-2027, you see that next wave of projects, about $116 million in 2027, another $116 million in 2028, and then another 80 or so million in the out years. And so part of the reason that we're thinking about this for the moment in kind of a two-part scenario is that for a $72 million financing, given where you're going with the budget, given where you're trending, very comfortable with that moving forward. Right, because at that next chapter, we've got some very large investments to be made. So in the aggregate, there's about $300 million of bond-funded projects beginning in and around 2027. And so we want to be here to be talking not just about where we are right now, but also thinking about what that's going to look like over the next several years. Could that be offset with some outside dollars, maybe from the state? By all means, that would be very helpful. We don't control that. But every dollar that you're able to get either in grant or in state funding is going to make a difference in terms of helping to offset some of that cost that is certainly expected for something that will be a generational project going forward. So again, as we talk about the future, when we get to that 26, 27 time period, that's when we start to see whether it's inflationary or it's, hopefully inflation is subdued, maybe rates have come down, just the sheer amount of dollars out there. We just want to be proactive in talking about that, given it is such a large amount and it's generational in terms of the need for it. So just wrapping up here in the next couple pages, again, we've got a history here in the second bullet point of rate increases in and around about 6%. And so that has kept you in a healthy state for a long time period. That was more than inflation, but we've certainly seen that last couple of years being, maybe equal to, if not a little bit below inflation. And so that's kind of the planning for 2025. We're going to have to watch that really closely as we get into 2025, given the size of the capital program, about what that may look like into the future. Don't know exactly. There's a lot of projections here right now, but we're going to watch that closely over the summer and the fall. And so then, wrapping up in terms of schedule and next steps, and always happy to answer any questions. We're here in May. We'll be back in the June time period to take the formal actions related to that roughly $72 million to move that forward in terms of that bond issue. Be applying to the LGC around the same time period via that process, talking to the rating agencies. And so towards that mid-late June time period, we'll have some of their input on what these projections look like for water and sewer. And it'll be healthy to do that while we're in such good shape and while we're able to bring a bond issue that, while it's substantial, is not yet kind of the big pieces coming forward for water and sewer. So we'll have some of that fresh intel, so to speak, from the rating agencies as we cycle into the next planning cycle that I think will come very quickly on the heels. Following that, we plan to be in the market in early August, and again, closing towards the latter part of August and having those dollars in hand to move forward on those critical projects. So, as always, Mr. Chair, appreciate the time. Happy to answer any questions that you have. We don't need necessarily a formal action today. That'll come in June. But happy to answer any questions or address anything else you may have.
I was going to say good. No, I'm glad there's no need for formal action, because usually after you get through, my head hurts, and today is no exception to dig down and study your numbers and probably ask you many questions on that. But any questions from the board?
He gives us a lot of information, but it always stimulates me to realize I have more questions.
Yes.
What ifs?
Yeah.
Good.
No? All right.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Kyle.
Thank you, sir.
Good job, Kyle.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And next up, we have a delinquent tax collection report from our tax administrator, Jocelyn Andrews, with more numbers.
More numbers, yeah. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners.
Good morning.
Before you is the March collections report. As you can see, we're kind of year-to-date about where we were last year this time. We have about a little less than, well, at the end of March. Let me clarify that. At the end of March, we had about 1.5 almost left to collect. And so that's where we are for this year. It is a tough time of year for my staff because nothing comes easy at this time of year as we try to wrap up the year and push strong towards June 30th. I'll be happy to take any questions.
Any questions?
No, ma'am.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. The next item is County Commissioner District 6 appointment. And Jennifer, are you going to kind of give us an update on the procedures and rules for that?
Yes, sir. I'd be glad to. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. When a vacancy occurs in a Board of Commissioners, the North Carolina General Statutes dictate how that vacancy should be filled. And the Board of Commissioners makes that appointment within 60 days of the date of the vacancy. The things that you have to consider to make that appointment: number one, it has to be a member of the same political party of the member being replaced. Number two, it has to be a resident of the district. And number 3, you need to consult with the executive committee of the party in which the vacancy occurred, and in this case is the Republican Party. There is no statutory process that you're required to go through to do this. You've just got to meet these 3 requirements. And in this particular instance, the person being considered for appointment is Mr. Bill Stovall, and he does meet those 3 requirements as discussed. And I understand that we have received a letter from the executive committee of the Republican Party supporting the appointment. The term would last until the first Monday in November of this year, because that is when Mr. Braswell's term would have expired. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have about this.
Any questions?
No, but I've got a comment. I was the only one on this board that was actively involved in a campaign this cycle. And I must say, well, since I've been on the board, this is the 5th time I've been involved in an appointment, because of a vacancy. And this is the first time, though, that we've had more than just the recommendation of the party's executive committee. We've had the voters to weigh in on it. I was in the campaign cycle with Mr. Stovall. He ran a solid race, a strong race throughout. He appears to have a lot of experience, and the voters recognize that. So if it's appropriate, Mr. Chairman, I would recommend, I would move that we nominate or name Bill Stovall to replace the vacancy.
All right, we have a motion.
Second.
And a second. Any other discussion?
I'm not sure if his formal name, I'll just call him Bill Stovall.
That works. That's what it says. So,
That's
yeah.
right. That's right.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of that motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Motion carries. We'll see you this evening, Mr. Stovall. All right, next up, we have manager reports and comments.
Good morning, everybody. Would like to just talk about the budget schedule. Thank you for, on the consent agenda, establishing that public hearing for June 3rd at the 10 o'clock meeting for the budget public hearing that's required by statute. I'd like to ask the board for your consideration. I will also congratulate Mr. Stovall, and also ask if everyone would be okay with having your hearing on the 3rd, which you've already approved, a budget meeting on the 10th, the next Monday night at 6 o'clock. And then you already have a June 17th meeting scheduled, if we could possibly do budget adoption that night. So,
This is very similar to what we did last year, I believe.
Yeah, it is. Is that okay?
And I also checked with Mr. Stovall's calendar too, so.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm good with
Yep, okay.
That's
sounds
all
good.
I have, and thank you all.
Thank you.
All right. And now we come to board reports and comments. Commissioner Braswell.
Some time back, we agreed to participate in a workforce development center construction in Four Oaks, North Carolina, to be, I guess, managed by the college when it's finished. And I would encourage us to look at programs that we could offer, not just for new businesses coming in, but for businesses that are already here, where we might be able to help them in their training, or perhaps other services that we could offer them. But I'd like to make sure that we keep that in mind when that system comes online.
Okay. Commissioner Goblin.
Yeah, we had a presentation today from Josh Jensen of the Citizen and Senior Services. And I'm reminded that several years ago, we adopted an aging policy here at the county level. The idea being that any new program, any new initiative that came along, that we would always filter it through the impact it would have on our aging population. For example, if we came up with a new convenience site for trash, solid waste, how was the design of that? How would it impact our senior citizens in terms of being able to utilize the space? And I'm not sure if we've really adequately addressed that lately. I might just lean on the staff a little bit to let's look at that and see if we need to refresh that, dust it off a little bit, and make sure we're doing that for our senior citizens. Not all of us are going to be EMS or veterans, but we're all going to be senior citizens if we're lucky. So we need to keep that in mind.
All right, thank you. Vice Chairman Harris?
No, sir, thank you.
I'm good, thank you.
And I don't have anything either, and I don't think we have a need for the closed session. I will say there's a couple other items attached from our Public Utilities Department in the agenda on our water supply and wastewater supply. So if those are in there, and they were in the agendas as well for the public. So with that, I will entertain the motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All right, I forgot one thing. So we are shortly, when we adjourned, Mr. Stovall is going to be sworn in. So if those that can hang around for that, do that. But after we adjourn, that is our, it's not an order of business, but that's what's happening next. So,
Great.
all right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of adjourning, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We are adjourned. Thank y'all for coming.
Kyle.